Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. As you can obviously tell, I have resurrected myself. That will be addressed in a future video that will be coming up on the channel sometime in the future. For the time being, I am back with a review, and this is going to be the first installment of a brand new review series that I'm going to be doing because conveniently, as I have finally been able to have time to make videos again, of course we have Spider-Man No Way Home that's coming out in theatres here in the UK on December the 15th, which is only about 9 days from now as of making this video. So yeah, we're getting into the real like run-up period towards it now, and I thought, why not rewatch all the live-action Spider-Man movies and do a review for them on the channel? And I thought, why not? Because I've already reviewed Far From Home when that came out in 2019, and I hadn't reviewed any of the other Spider-Man movies, so I thought, why not review all those other ones, put them on here in preparation for No Way Home. We're going to be reviewing the original Spider-Man movie, all the way back from 2002, probably the pioneering movie of kickstarting the superhero genre in the early 2000s. It's a very beloved movie. It's a film that I do hold very close to my heart. Does it hold up? Let's find out. So starting off with the positives, I just have to say that this is a film that I do hold a lot of nostalgia for, because even though I didn't see this film in the cinemas because I was too young when it came out, back in 2002, I was only 2 years old, so of course I was never going to be able to go to a theatre to see it, but I just have such nostalgia around that time period, especially for when Spider-Man 2 came out, because I did go to the cinemas to watch Spider-Man 2. And what I love about this so much, and even all these years later, like almost 20 years later, it's such a good origin story. The template that they have for it and the way that they do it, I think the screenplay does it in a really good job, where it gets through the origin aspect of Peter being bitten by the spider, getting his powers, using them for just really selfish needs. It does it in a way that's very quick. It doesn't prolong it any longer than it needs to be. It happens at a quick pace, but you still get such a deep insight into the day-to-day life of Peter Parker, how he's this nerd who's constantly bullied, being an utter nerd, and just kind of being a bit awkward when talking to people. It does that so well in such a short amount of time. I do think it's paced out very well because it's able to be engaging. It doesn't feel like it's dragging, but it doesn't feel like it's going too quick either. And it's such a good origin story template, and there's reason that a lot of movies have tried to emulate this, especially after its release, but they just fail because they don't really grasp the idea of not only making this an origin story, but making it quick paced so it's fascinating for the audience, but giving you enough depth and insight into the characters around them and the main character itself that you actually latch onto them and you end up caring about these people by the end of the film. Performances as well, everyone in here I think is really good in their role. I know there's the obvious nitpick that everyone brings up now of the fact that none of them look like they're in high school, but I don't really care, because as long as they embody those characters, then I couldn't really give a shit about whether they look too old or the actor was like 30 or 32 and they're trying to play a teenager. I don't really care about that. That's never really bothered me. As long as your story and the characters and the performances are good, I don't care. Performances throughout, fantastic for me. I really like everyone in the roles. Of course, you've got your main, I guess, 3 hero characters in Peter, Harry, and Mary Jane. I think all of them are really good characters, and they really do a good job of laying the foundations for their characters and obviously building upon them in the sequels. Standouts for me were easily Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker Spider-Man. I still think, for me personally, he is my favourite Peter Parker. Even though we've had all these actors, of course, with Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland taking over the role since, I still maintain, in my opinion, that Tobey Maguire is the best Peter Parker, because he nailed that awkwardness of the character, but also the likability of him as well. I almost feel like that's kind of the most important part to nail about the character, because of course you're going to spend most of the movie with him as Peter Parker and not Spider-Man, and I think he really does a good job of selling that. They show him as a nerd, but they also show that he's very capable, he's very intelligent, he just doesn't really know how to show it across to other people in a cool way. Him as Spider-Man, I do really like him as Spider-Man. I know that people make the complaint of, oh, he doesn't quip enough, he's not funny enough in the role. If that's your vibe and that's the main thing you love about Spider-Man, then yeah, that's fine. I can understand maybe why you're not as don't enjoy his portrayal of Spider-Man as much. For me personally, I never really am someone that really gives a shit all that much about the jokes. He does have quips in the film, he just doesn't have as many as the other iterations that came after him. They're there when they need to be, and for me that's perfectly fine by me, and I do think they work for him in this film, and I just think his performance overall in the movie is really good. Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin as well, just he commits so much into this role. The fact that He has the whole split personality thing that's going on. It's something that is goofy. And I think Sam Raimi knew this and just said to Willem Dafoe, just let loose, just do whatever you want to do. And he goes for it, and it just makes his performance even more enjoyable. I think he's a really, really underrated villain. I don't think he gets often praised enough for just how much of a great performance this is by Willem Dafoe. Him being rushed into this deadline for this drug that he's working on, so he tests it on himself out of desperation. And then the fact that he kind of views Peter as more of a son than Harry, and the way that the film plays around with that is actually a really, really interesting dynamic. And there are problems that I will mention in the negatives. They're only really slight issues. It more has to do with cosmetic appearance. But I really like him in this film. And of course, I can't really talk about performances without mentioning J. Jonah Jameson, of course played by J.K. Simmons. One of the best castings in any comic book movie period. I mean, when you're able to not only play this character in the Raimiverse, but be that popular that the MCU and Kevin Feige is just like, do you know what, we can't hire anyone else. Let's just bring back J.K. Simmons because we can't find anyone else to play this character. He's just so good in this film, and he's not in it as much as I thought he was. He's only got about 3 scenes in the movie. You'd be lucky if he has maybe like 3 minutes of screen time, but he's so memorable with what he does. His back and forth with the few scenes he has in the film are just so entertaining. You can tell that they knew they struck gold with this, which is why they gave him more scenes in the sequels. But my good God, I love him. Even though he's not in this movie as much as the other ones, yeah, J. Jonah Jameson, man, he cracks me up every time I watch the film. The action in here as well, I also think is very well done. It's not as bombastic or as big as it is in Spider-Man 2 or 3, but I think that's just a case of, well, this was one of the first big superhero blockbuster films. They hadn't really figured it out by then. But still, given what it is, I think the action is very good. A lot more focus on like hand-to-hand combat sequences, which I think are filmed very, very well. They're very, very stylish in the way that they're shot. You can definitely tell it's a Sam Raimi film with all the zooms and the close-ups and the slight bit of campiness to everything, but not too much that it takes away. The one I always think about in particular is the end fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin, where Spider-Man's costume's just completely destroyed. Green Goblin was absolutely beating it up. I remember when the first time I watched this film in preparation for watching Spider-Man 2 in the cinemas, I watched the original film on DVD, and I watched this scene, and 4-year-old me was scarred by this completely. I was just like Jesus, like for what, I can't remember if it was a PG or a 12 rated movie, but it was like proper grim, watching the hero just get beat up so much throughout the film. And especially in this end sequence, but it was so different, you know. It was just really, really memorable fight sequences, and the rest of them are. I like the confrontation between him at Times Square. That's a really, really good action sequence as well. I do enjoy that. The scene in the alleyway where he beats up all the thugs and obviously has the upside down kiss with Mary Jane. That fight scene's really good. I do like the action in this movie. I think it's just the fact that the sequels just kind of elevated the action with the advancements of CGI, having Spider-Man be able to do more extravagant stuff during the action sequences. But I still do enjoy the action very much in this film on its own. And the emotional weight of this film is also something that has really gravitated towards me. And it's something that makes me really, really hold a lot of level of respect for these movies, especially when I compare them to the MCU films, because the emotional weight of everything, it always feels like there's consequences to a character's actions here, and it's never played for complete laughs. It doesn't break these moments with a joke. It's played serious, and it's just something that I really do appreciate about these movies. The scene where Uncle Ben dies is incredibly emotional. There's a scene not long after that where Peter's just sat in his room crying, thinking about Uncle Ben and what he said to him, and Aunt May comes in and talks. And it's these scenes where they allow characters to just emote. They don't have them quipping all the time. There's moments where these characters just have real human emotions and feelings that we can relate to, and that's just really, really nice to see. The fact that this movie has the ability to do that, and I think that's why Sam Raimi, you can tell he understands Spider-Man. He understands that this is a character that is designed to be someone that the audience can sympathize with, because he goes through similar issues and feelings and emotions that we do, and the way that's shown in the film, I just think is really good. And not just about the Raimi trilogy, but even the Amazing Spider-Man films retain this to a certain extent, and I think in this film, yeah, it lays the foundation for it. It does a really, really good job. And the style as well. This is the movie that does feel stylish. You can tell that this is someone's vision, someone's idea. They've put their own stamp and their imprint on it. If you've watched Raimi films like the Evil Dead trilogy or Darkman, you can watch this and you know this is a Raimi movie. The style of it, like I say, it can be fun, it can be serious, it can be frightening, but all of these tones, they come together in such a smooth way throughout the majority of the runtime. You've got the camera tricks with how he zooms in with the camera during the intimate scenes where characters are closer and they're connecting with one another on an emotional level. Quick zooms that he has. It's just, it feels like it's got a style, because one of my issues that I have, and I'll get onto later when I talk about Spider-Man Homecoming when I review that film, is that I feel like those movies don't really have a sense of direction style to it. It kind of feels like it just kind of emulates other directors' work in previous films. With Raimi's films, they feel like Raimi movies. Even Spider-Man 3, which I'll get onto later and is generally conceived by many people, including myself, to be the weakest of the Raimi trilogy, it still feels like a Raimi film. It still has a sense of style to it and direction. And I just like how he imprints it here, very much letting you know straight away this is a Raimi film. I'm not conforming to a studio. I'm going to make the movie. I'm going to put my spin and my own imprint on it. And he does it in a really, really good way. And it's definitely something that makes this film stand out and makes it age, in my opinion, pretty well for the most part. Oh, and one more thing before I actually forget. The Spider-Man suit that is in all of Tobey Maguire's movies. Best Spider-Man suit in any live-action film, hands down. For me, it's not just nostalgia, I just love it. I love the raised webbing, I love the colours. Even the little adjustments they make to the suit in Spider-Man 2 onwards, I think make it even better. But yeah, this is my favourite suit out of all the movies, no question about it. I like the other ones, I like the one that Andrew has in his second one. I like the ones that Tom Holland has, apart from the ones that get a bit too Iron Man-esque. But for me, the Raimi suit across all three movies, favourite Spider-Man suit by far. And also the music as well. I love Danny Elfman's music. I think it's really good in this one. I'll talk about it more in Spider-Man 2 because I'd probably say that's my favourite out of the two scores that he did for the trilogy. But the music in this film is really good. I really like it. Really unique Danny Elfman themes. He's one of my favourite composers. And I think his score here is really good. Really elevates the emotions and the action sequences and just the whole film in of itself. I think his soundtrack to the movie is fantastic. Now, we get on to the negatives for Spider-Man 2002. I only really have two, and they're not exactly like major things for me personally, but they are things that when I watched the film, I did note them, and a lot of it just mainly has to do, I think, just with how the film has aged over time. First one is, I will say there are some dated effects and CGI film, especially CGI. I think this was kind of in the era, of course, when they were still figuring out what they could and they couldn't do with it. Of course, it kind of explains why a lot of the action sequences in the film are hand-to-hand fight sequences, because when they do these other CGI things, it doesn't age as well as it does. Like, you compare this to the CGI in Spider-Man 2, and I think the CGI in that film has aged phenomenally well. In here, I think it works in some places, but there's other places where, yeah, it's just very, very obviously not real. I think about some of the moments in the Times Square sequence. Definitely does give away that it's CGI, but it didn't distract me completely. I'll also mention as well that I do agree with the complaint that the Green Goblin suit, it does look like a Power Ranger suit. It's mainly the helmet. I think the helmet is just too big. I think if they found a way to shrink it, then I don't think it would be as bad. It's just the fact that he's got this okay-ish suit, but then he's got a helmet that makes his head look about 3 times bigger than it actually is. Yeah, it just seems really, really impractical. And this other minor negative I will say is that I do think there are some tonal changes that aren't as smooth. I do think there are a few moments in this film where, yeah, the tone is going between these, you know, the three aspects of fun, serious, and kind of a little bit scary at times. But I feel like most of the time, like I'd argue like 90% of the time, it does it incredibly well. And then there's kind of like a few moments where I do feel like it's a little bit too much. It feels like it's a bit too quick of a change. But it's not too big of an issue. It's certainly nowhere near as bad as what you have in some of the Marvel films where they've got serious moments and they just put a joke in for no reason. So I wouldn't really consider it a major negative. I think it's just mainly something that just comes down to the aging of the film and the fact that it is nearly 2 decades old. So naturally there are going to be things that don't age as well as other bits and pieces. So if that was the case, then yeah, the way that it changed between tones is probably one of them for me. But overall, I've got to be honest, I really do like this film. Even when I take off the nostalgia glasses, I still love this movie. I still really, really enjoy it. And I still think that this is one of the most important superhero movies of all time. Like, people forget, like, this broke records when it came out. I think it grossed, like, over 800 million. It was, like, the 6th highest grossing film of all time. when it came out. This was really an influential film in kind of kickstarting the superhero genre, because you had Blade in, I think it was the late 90s, you had the first X-Men movie, and then you had kind of this film that just took what those two films did in terms of building superhero movies' reputation and just skyrocketing to the next level. So for me, I'm going to give this film a 9.5 out of 10. I really do enjoy this film that much. I think it is damn near perfect. Like I say, there are like the two minor things that don't age about it too well, but other than that, I think this is a brilliant origin superhero film. I think it's really well made. Apart from the two minor things, ages very well to this day. It's got great characters, great performances. It has a sense of style to it. The action is fantastic throughout. There's a sense of just kinetic energy to everything that's going on. And yeah, for me, a really, really damn good superhero movie. And in regards to live-action Spider-Man movies, yeah, it's definitely up there with one of the best for me personally. So thank you all very much for watching this video. Of course, we'll be back again in the next video. We'll be talking about the sequel to this film, Spider-Man 2. Anyone who knows me knows for a fact that is going to be that's going to be a very, very fanboyish video, because yeah, no spoilers on this one. I really love Spider-Man 2 as well, so that is going to be a really, really fun film for me to review and to discuss and to kind of let off my fanboy emotions while talking about it. And yeah, thank you very much for watching my review. Hopefully you stick around for the rest of the series. Please leave a like on the video and share this around to all of your friends. And if you've not already subscribed already and you like what you see and you want to see more, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me, especially given that, of course, I have been off for quite a while. Again, there will be a video coming out in the future that will explain everything as to why I was off for so long. But with that being said, thank you for watching once again, and I hope to see you again next time.